OCM. Oh, holy viola, oh, holy viola, halela, hale, halala, hale, hala, hale, halala, hale, hala, hale, hala. Oh, holy viola, oh, holy viola, Charlie, Claus, Kalis, Kalala, Halela, Hali, Halala, Hale, Hala, Hale, Hala. Oh, holy viola, oh, holy viola, Halela, Hale, Halala, Halela, Hale, Halala, Hale, Hala, Hale, Hala. Woo! Yeah. OCM. The song comes from a gambling song, Squamish. Song is used probably by other nations around the neighborhood. Um, Slahal or Bone Game. And I was just talking about where the songs come from and that kind of thing where I was asked, Donnie asked me when I first started hearing these songs, and it was back in boarding school, residential school, when I would observe bowling games going on in the basement, where or the big boys would hold competition down there, and they would sing songs. Also, uh, Chief Dan George, um, he would come in Christmas times and hold concerts, and they would sing their songs. We would learn their songs because they're kind of cool, and we like to learn them. So I spent 10 years in residential school, two schools actually, and um, that kind of, I guess, tempered my spirit to be determined to be successful. It took me a while to get there. I had my first 8 years in St. Paul's, which is in North Vancouver, and we were, uh, I guess, what do you call it, under the care of nuns, and we would learn all the art of religion. Then the things that we did not learn um, came to be. Those are the things that we really needed, like how to be a parent, how to be a partner in a relationship, how to be a contributing member of a family. These kind of things kind of escaped us because we were living in a sort of a cut and dried environment where we just did good. If we didn't do good, we got caught doing something else, we were punished pretty severely. Um, there was a lot of do's and don'ts, and the disciplines that we had um, been brought up with were the ones we carried throughout our lives. And as it turned out, the things that I learned from residential school, boarding school, um, they were helpful. And what they did is they helped me to become stronger. Um, I wasn't a bully in school. But I wasn't picked on either. But I did some things to improve my situation through what we did: gymnastics, boxing, and later on, when I was going to the residential school in Kamloops, I became the drum sergeant for a marching band for the residential school. Things like that that got us, distracted from our situation. But later on in life, The residential school experience was not much help on providing any kind of information on what I should be doing as a young adult. So I ended up failing my marriage, failing a relationship, and not knowing what to do, but knowing that I had to do something. I did. I got into transcendental meditation. I got myself to get focused on anything that's positive in my future, and consequently, after a few more attempts at bringing my family back together and failing there again, I decided I needed to start over. So I moved myself to Hawaii and started over again, and actually became quite successful. Learned so much stuff from the Hawaiian people, from the American Indian family, uh, which I worked for a couple of years in Honolulu. Hawaii Council of American Indian Nations, it was called, HCANE. And I worked as a coordinator of special events. So it allowed me to become even more involved with the Hawaiian community, and which allowed me to see into things that were taking place within Hawaii involving land, fishing rights, water rights, and things of that nature, the struggles that the Hawaiian families are going through. So I had that experience and allowed me to grow in a good way. So while in Hawaii, I had become involved with the Hawaiian community. I became involved in culture, bringing stories, songs, dances to the schools in Hawaii, as well as organizing the powwows and whatever celebrations in Hawaii. That was my job. Uh, so I became good. I was very happy, I tell you. So I had a pretty good future. Got married, got involved with air conditioning, and became a journeyman in air conditioning on the island of Maui. And life was good. So I had my family and got involved with canoes and culture. Um, and then when it's time to come back here, I had all that experience to bring back with me. So I've been back here now for a number of years and have successfully um, engaged and in our canoe culture, as well as our walking, talking culture, and the things that we do traditionally as a West Coast people. So there's a lot of stories and legends that speak about how we had gone through various things weather-wise on the West Coast here. We have hunting camps that date back 10,000 years, uh, where we have the obvious things set up. We have sentinel areas throughout the territory that are designated through pictographs. There are pictographs in those areas of thunderbirds, mountain goats, eagles, and these are areas that were maintained by a select people from the Squamish that were like security guards, and their jobs were to protect the people, and so they utilized those areas. And we have history that goes back a long, long ways. Some say 12,000 years. We have similar history to our cousin nations throughout the West Coast here. The Great flood stories, the stories of the Ice Age, the families that allowed people to survive that time, and having sacrificed themselves, went out to find food. And those that came back were honored in a ceremony, and they were given names that are with us today. Throughout the Vancouver mainland area, Kitsilano is one of those names, comes from Katsilano, but the last part of the name, Lano, was added on as other families had that same distinction, that same honor of having Lano added on to their name. This was to designate them as the families that went out and found food when we were starving, when our people were starving during an ice age. So the chiefs added Lano to their name. And today you look around and you can see the evidence of that through the families uh, and areas like Kitsilano. Kitsilano is named after Katsilano, who was a high chief over there, um, who was one of the people families that involved in this story. But the other families would be Hatsilano, Tatsilano, Huelano, as well as Katsilano, and all have that Lanok at the end, which translates to first man, or the first person, or that person is first. Um, Things of that nature, they come down through the ages. So I encourage all the time for our youth to speak to the elders. To if you have a question, ask an elder something, because they're dying to tell you something, but don't know what, because we need to be asked. Need to be asked the right question, um, and then be prepared, take notes. So yeah, so gambling, lots of fun indeed.